have the pleasure of working with the Polytechnic University of Timișoara in this digital culture project that you've already heard about in some of the previous presentations. And I will tell you a little bit about what we have recently been doing on integrating third-party applications into Moodle. Now, if you don't use Moodle and you're interested, you can also use many of these applications outside of Moodle, of course. But the focus is on how to improve these digital learning systems and learning management systems to provide a better experience to our learners. So what we would typically see in any kind of middle school and primary school or secondaries is a very rich environment, right? Where we celebrate achievements, we see activities, past activities that we have seen, and many other content and artifacts that make us remember and learn and motivate us. In comparison to that, our own experiences when we go to MOOCs, so that Vlad and Andre also mentioned, we have low typically completion rates, and even with the courses at university, our courses look very different. So I've used an example of one of my own courses here. These look nothing like the classroom that we just saw. It's a long list of links and sometimes a little bit of text that explains, but otherwise what I would call a dead list of links, a link fest. And this certainly has not the most motivating characteristics. So we've been looking into how to improve this. And you've seen already in the examples from Vlad, actually some ways of how to improve that. And I just wanted to show you here an example of how courses, but from the people that make money off of this, actually, who are not paid by the states, but Coursera, a big MOOC platform. And when we look at this, we see a very sober list of activities. And of course, these are mostly driven by videos, as they would be in these mass and open online courses. So there's not so much content, of course, here that allows for face-to-face interactions with students. Now, what I wanted to show you is basically on how we can change this material and how can we get rid of this problem of these very long lists of activities that we see. And what you saw before, this is the same course actually that I just showed you this video of, and we can fold these courses differently. So one way of addressing this problem of the very long scroll, or what we call the scroll of death, is to fold these. And we can do this in Moodle, for example, through themes or this grid format here. And the other thing is that we can fold content, actually. So this is what I wanted to show you here. So this is what this content looked before. And this is how it looked after. So before I tell you about all these apps, I need to tell you a little bit quickly on what the problem is with these long scrolling lists, how to address that, and how to make the course, in a sense, a better place that resembles more the place that you saw in the very first picture in that schoolroom. So here we can now see a very clean, comparatively clean list actually of activities, because what I'm teaching is a course that is flipped, which means that the students have to watch videos in preparation to the course. So there's a long list of videos here, and didactics or research in education tells us that we should make these videos short. And so one of the problems is that all of a sudden then we have a long list. These are now folded here into this part. So we save a lot of material or space, so to speak, in this. And here we have the same content And we can clearly see now more the structure of a class, you know, what people have to do in preparation, during the workshop, and after a workshop. Now, let me show you what this means actually. So what we mean by this folding. So in order to fold material, we've created something that allows us to now expand these elements here and allows us to therefore save a lot of the space and therefore make content much more easily to have an overview of, and where you need, you can go into the details. This means also that we can, for example, include exercise descriptions now that I used to have in links, and you would have to open new windows or tabs on your internet browser, and you can now find these content or these instructions here in line inside the courses. So you don't have to go away. One of the big problems, of course, is that a lot of students might just be following other things on their computers. So now we can fold this away. Another thing we can provide people is we can provide resources. This is a Google Drive folder that we can share and make accessible, and that reduces the work I have to do as a teacher, that you need to update this every time you run your course again. So you can directly embed these into your courses. Now we're coming to the really interesting things, because this, what you just saw, is very typical for the kind of administrative aspects of courses that you need to do, but we can integrate other activities. And this looks now more like what you would expect from a classroom, actually. So this is from previous years runs, or the course I ran this spring when everything was in Corona lockdown and we could not meet. And we used this app called Miro, for example, to do group work. And Maria, if you can share the bit.ly link, or you can use that, you can come to this board, actually interact with it, add content, and do things here. So let me try that. I should be able to do that. For example, I can add this screenshot here inside this this board and make it bigger. And then everybody can, you can have all these students join in. And one of the nice things that you now see is that, oh my goodness, there are lots of people. One of the things that what I really like about these tools is that they provide a sense of other students actually doing the work, which can be even a problem in face-to-face teaching. When you have a large class, I often have courses with 70 to 100 students. So it's very nice for them to see that actually some of the other students are also participating in these activities. And I see now that we have a lot of people joining. I have not tested the limits of Miro, but you can try and moving things around. You can try, yes, wonderful, working just as we thought. And of course, as a teacher, when you run this, you can then get a good sense of what's actually going on in your course. And as I said, you can also use this, of course, outside of Moodle, but you can now see this as a much more engaging way of looking at past work. So all of the activities you see here was actually student activities and walked through in the workshops for discussion and their own exploration. So this gives you quite a good sense, I think, what it means to have one of these tools at your proposal. I will leave you here to play with that in the background. And I will return to this. So the question is, of course, how do you actually solve this problem technically? And the good news is, all you would need to do is talk to your friendly Moodle administrator and ask them to install something called the Generico filter. So it's linked from the presentation, and if you want to look it up, you can download the presentation after. I will make that accessible through Diana. And this filter basically does the work for you. So the filter allows you to embed content easily. And what that means is that if you know how to do something in Moodle, so typically when you have a section, you can add an activity or resource here, then you would get this next step where you can add what are called activities in Moodle. In this case, it's a simple label that we use. And then you would get this editor button or editor applet. And if you expand this and you've installed this Generico filter, there will be this G here. And now if you click on this G, you will then get all the templates that we included. So for example, YouTube or collapsible buttons that I've already shown you, or Miro, for example. So let's assume we want to embed Miro. Now all we need to do is to look up the ID of that Miro board. So we would get that from the URL. So this is the only time where it gets slightly technical. You need to go into the internet address of this Miro board, and then you can copy that into this Miro ID field, and then you would need to give this element a name, and then you can insert it, and then you would see this very interesting text string here that basically says nothing, that Generico, this filter, has to interpret this and apply the Miro template that we have created for you. And this is the ID here, and this is the name. So we save this. Now we have this collapsible button here with Miro. If we click on it, we can open it up, and we have this material here and ready for the students to use. So we can embed pretty much anything that provides an embed code. Many activities or third-party apps provide these embedding codes. You can often see this with this kind of icon or symbolism. And what you can do is, for example, the whole Google suite you can use. For example, you can include slides, forms, Word documents, spreadsheets. If you have fewer than 50 students, they can even collaborate in these and edit this at the same time. If they just want to view, it's unlimited. That's what we're currently doing. You're looking at actually a slideshow that I'm running from inside my Moodle, and you can have many people following this. There are other collaboration tools. Miro I showed you, but maybe you have heard of Padlet. It's another way of doing things, is basically structuring learning tasks or brainstorms. You can also use a tool like Trello, where you manage workflow and to-do lists and tasks and many more. These are just some of our favorites that we like. You can also include commenting. In case you run a Reddit thread somewhere, you can embed that. You can embed Twitter or Yammer, a recent Microsoft addition to their product portfolio, and make it easy for people to comment inside Moodle courses. And then there are the big ones that are like learning environments that you can embed. So for example, you can include GeoGebra. So while in your course, people can do all these things here with plotting numbers and calculations, or programming and processing they can do inside the course. Or you can include GitHub if you're interested in programming and how to share code. So there are a number of third-party apps that allow you to either show content inline, for example, the one presentation that you're seeing right now, or PDFs or folders. That's what I showed you before. We have these collaboration tools from, for example, Google. You can also get it from Microsoft. If you have OneDrive and your university or facility supports that, you can include that too. learning environment. So and this is just the tip of the iceberg, and some of the things that we found very, very helpful in getting our courses in Moodle to the next level. And in case anybody has questions, I'd be happy to take that. If you want to tell me a little bit about which one of these tools you found most interesting or maybe exciting, you can go to this bit.ly link here, Maria, if you post that into the chat, and you can leave maybe your favorite things that you discovered. Use just a single or couple of words, and then you can contribute to this word cloud that I set up.